Will the recorder call the roll?
I am here.
Counselor Hartmeyer-Prigg.
Here.
Counselor Hassan.
Here.
Counselor Kimmy.
Here.
Counselor Teeter.
Here.
Counselor Tivnon.
Here.
Mayor Beatty.
Here. All right, today we are going to have a proclamation, visitor comment, a presentation from the Oregon Startup Center, a city manager report, a lengthy consent agenda, a public hearing, and an action item. So with that, Council President.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a proclamation from the City Council, actually. Whereas this month marks the 97th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birth, and whereas Dr. King dedicated his life to advancing equality and social justice and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work to build a more perfect union, and whereas Dr. King taught us that we are measured not by where we stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but by the stands we take during times of challenge and controversy, and whereas the events of the past year presented our community with no shortage of challenges, and whereas there is a racial divide in our country that we must work to bridge in order to help heal the wounds created by structural racism, both historical and current, and whereas Dr. King's teachings continue to guide and inspire us in addressing the challenges, and whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day is observed each year on the third Monday in January and is the only federal holiday designated as a National Day of Service, and whereas each of us can and must contribute to making our communities better with increased opportunities for the whole community. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Beaverton, do hereby proclaim January 19, 2026 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Beaverton. Encourage all residents to reflect on Dr. King's teachings and seek to put them into action through service to our community.
All right, we are now up for visitor comments. As a reminder, visitor comments is an essential part of local government business. However, in order to help us stay compliant with Oregon's open meeting laws, this is not a time for dialogue, rather a time to listen. If follow-up is required, the city manager is here to do that. When you're called forward, you'll have 3 minutes to address the city council. And first on deck is Alyssa, followed by Caitlin, followed by Jacqueline. Alyssa Collier.
Mayor, she let us know that she was going to join virtually, but I am not
Is she
seeing
on the
her.
virtual link?
I'm not seeing her on here.
Okay. Caitlin McKillop. Jacqueline Leedy. Oh, sorry.
Hello. I'm here today as a concerned citizen, asking all of you to act with more urgency and ingenuity against the threat that ICE has created in our community. We knew before he even retook office that the president would abuse his authority to target and make an example of our city. Yet it has taken an entire year for us to gather tonight to codify Oregon's Sanctuary Promise Act, which at best only signals our ability to defend ourselves. The current administration could win an award for the manipulation or fabrication of legal loopholes, and you're telling me that only John has been able to think outside the box, taking inspiration from other cities to come up with viable solutions to keep the community safe? Mutual aid efforts are a heartwarming display of unity, but they're only supposed to be a stopgap while you all develop alternatives. Last month, I watched everyone go down the line describing how personally difficult recent events have been to witness, how scary and uncertain the world is, especially as a parent. But we didn't get to hear from the numerous parents who are imprisoned in their own homes or stuck at work while their young children wait for the school bus, fearing for their safety. Many of these children are too young yet to participate in a walkout, and all of them have too big a target on their backs simply for existing to push back and say no to an authority figure who makes a wrong judgment call or acts out of turn. Sharing your experiences doesn't make you sound empathetic. It makes you sound ignorant to the severity of your constituents' everyday realities. We're all angry, we're all afraid and exhausted, but we aren't all endowed with the legal or political authority you are. So please channel your sympathy, your empathy, your rage into urgent action. I heard Mayor Beatty say on the news that a lawsuit is the #1 tool in a city's toolbox. that she and her colleagues can enter the city into lawsuits quickly, and that when we sue, we win. Where was that energy when Tony Hernandez had his civil rights trampled and was assaulted by federal officers, while he waited in custody as his wife and my boss tried to seek legal recourse? Where were any of you but John? And where is that energy now? Beaverton may be an increasingly popular city to settle down in, but our community is only as safe as our most at-risk residents. Right now, we should all be on high alert. I understand that it's helpful for us to offer up solutions in our testimony, but honestly, that's supposed to be your job. I came with ideas in December, but it's hard to know which are productive or even feasible without a continued dialogue. We need more than 2 minutes each month with you. If you'd like to make yourselves more available to the community or have a more productive dialogue, I would love to see any of you or all of you at Mutt's Coffee.
Jacqueline Leedy.
Thank you. On December 16th, at a city council meeting here in Beaverton, Daisy, a brave 14-year-old girl, sat before you and through tears presented a powerful testimony about her experiences as a Latina community member navigating the everyday fear her and her family have of the ongoing ICE raids in our community. When Daisy finished her testimony, she then asked if she could speak again, only this time telling her testimony in Spanish. Mayor, your immediate reflex was no. You did eventually say yes after first spending time allowing each counselor to speak on why they feel they can't do enough for their constituents right now in regards to the topic of ICE's presence in our community. By the time that was all wrapped up, Daisy could have had her simple 4 minutes to share her testimony in Spanish, and here's why that would have mattered if that had been allowed unequivocally. Her voice mattered the most that day, more than any of yours sitting on this board, more than... We get to hear your voices every day. You have platforms, you have positions of power. Daisy does not. She is both a minor and a minority. I spent a lot of time asking myself, how did we get here? It certainly didn't happen overnight. But even the best of us with the best of intentions have lessons to learn and growing to do. Oppression doesn't just happen in big ways and with big headlines. It's the small, everyday acts that allow a culture of oppression to manifest. It's denying a Spanish speaker their right to relay an important message to their community at a time when their community is under constant and continuous attack. And it is our job to see that, understand that, and use our position of power to break that chain early in its formation. Mayor, you went on to say to Daisy, when a person of authority pushes you like that, you should push back. On one hand, you are asking Daisy to do something that goes up against what our government is teaching her every day could get her seriously harmed, if not killed, that fighting back against authority could have severe consequences on her health and safety. I believe the statement to be out of touch, reckless, and irresponsible. Second, and I say this respectfully, I invite you to yield your own advice, the difference being that you are in a position of power, and you yourself should fight back against authority, the authority of the federal government that invades our city every day and threatens the safety of our community members.
Liza Vandehey. Delfino. Kylie Delgado.
Hello. I want to talk about the type of leaders we have present in this room. We have a mayor, Lacey Beatty, who shops at Costco just like a lot of us, Earlier this month, while pulling into the Costco parking lot, Lacey stumbled upon a number of ICE agents staging for a detainment. Several brave community members were present, filming these agents to protect our vulnerable neighbors. When Lacey was called upon to use her power, her voice, or her conscience to help her community, she refused. She walked into the grocery store and partook in samples, browsed the aisles, picked up a few treats, and went about her life. Is that the type of leader we deserve? No. We have a city council who excels in photo ops, aphorisms, speaking engagements, trainings, and press releases. But when they are asked to deliver real policy, they tell us their hands are tied. When we ask them to put pressure on our police department to enforce sanctuary status, they tell us there's nothing they can do. When we ask them to publicly contest lies written in police department incident reports, they are silent. They prioritize re-election and decorum ahead of accountability. Are these the types of leaders we deserve? We have a police department that hires and protects racists, liars, and criminals. The police present in this room are aware of Officer Robert Lamb's incident report from December 10th, in which he outright lies and creates a story that not only did not happen, but is easily disproven by video footage. If he lies like this when cameras are on him, imagine what he lies about when the cameras are gone. He is being investigated for a crime, and he is still on patrol. Are these the type of leaders we deserve? No. When one of our own is shot dead, like Keith Porter, for not looking American enough, or Renee Good for protecting her neighbors, this city government will call it a tragedy. Maybe it'll be me. Some public figures will post a photo of us together at a campaign event, or call me brave and organize a vigil, and still, Officer Lamb will be on the streets frisking brown people, and City Council will be taking selfies at fundraisers, and Mayor Beatty will be sidestepping calls to help her community and finish her grocery shopping. Tonight, you will vote to codify sanctuary status. Without adopting the policy proposal set forth by Blaine and Barry, codification means nothing. Prove to us you care with policy, not hollow statements or feel-good resolutions. Do your jobs while you still have one.
Doug, Renew.
Good evening. It's Renault, like plateau. On December 10th, 2025, the Beaverton City Government Facebook page posted a statement about ICE activity that was reported and fully documented that was happening in the municipal courthouse parking lot that morning. We have that documentation solely because of the incredible work and bravery of Kylie Delgado. This statement on Facebook was full of lies. As of today, that post has about 500 reactions, 120 shares, and nearly 1,000 comments. Many of those comments, including several of my own, are of community members asking you to revoke or revise that statement. Additionally, starting on December 18th, I began emailing each city councilor, the mayor, and the city manager multiple times over the next week or so to ask who produced that statement and for the errors to be corrected. One city councilor reached out to me on December 30th to ask if we could discuss it in person. I replied on January 2nd that I would be happy to. As of today, they've not followed up to set that meeting. Another city councilor responded saying, quote, "The city manager is the CEO of the city and runs operations of the city. The statement was likely written by folks on the leadership team and distributed," end quote. A friend of mine has shared with me that it was not the city manager who posted that statement. I have still received no response whatsoever from the city manager, the mayor, or the remaining city councilors. I would really love to know why, after 40 days, we still don't know who was responsible for putting out a statement on the city social media that directly contradicts the lived experience, video documentation, and 911 dispatch data that we have now obtained about this incident. I would also love to know what exactly has prevented city council, mayor, or manager from making any kind of public announcement to revise that statement. I hope that the city council will adopt whatever measures are being proposed tonight to deal with the invasion of ICE agents in our community. Something is better than nothing, but please understand, whatever trust may have existed in city leadership from your community has been irrevocably eroded by this abject failure to acknowledge the reality of what is happening here. Thank you.
All right, we are on to presentation, Agenda Bill 26015, the Oregon Startup Center.
Looks like we're on. All right. So, Mayor Beatty and members of council, for the record, my name is Mike Williams, and I'm the city's economic development manager. Today, I'm here with Jim Chee. He's the director of the Oregon Startup Center, or OSC. OSC has been partnering with the city for over 20 years, and thanks to a federal grant, is now located in a purpose-built collaborative hub right here in the Beaverton building. I think you will see in Jim's presentation, what you will see in Jim's presentation is a very thoughtful approach to helping innovative businesses and nonprofit organizations. It helped them thrive through cutting-edge technical assistance and collaboration. So with no further delay, let's hear from Jim.
Hello, everyone. My name's Jim Chee, the Executive Director of the Oregon Startup Center, that I took on this role early last summer and have been working with a small group of folks to rebuild and reactivate the center with a new structure, some additional outreach, a little info about our portfolio companies to share what's been taking place, the impact we have on the business community here in Beaverton, some stats around the outreach in terms of what we're accomplishing with our for-profit and nonprofit organizations, and some of the upcoming programs that will deliver this coming year. So the Oregon Startup Center is at the heart of business and operational resources for startup organizations and for nonprofits that are looking to scale and become more effective or more efficient in how they operate. What we're doing with the for-profit side is providing some startup strategy, investment readiness, and job creation efforts that those companies will bring to Beaverton. On the nonprofit side, what we're trying to do is address the obvious change in the grant funding landscape that took place last year, along with their operations and how they're governed in terms of their board and how they operate. So those are the areas of our focus by providing business and operational resources in terms of advisory services and guidance to these founders and nonprofit leaders. Our focus is Beaverton at the core, extending out to the entire state with the greater Beaverton area, Washington County, the Portland metro area as a whole, and then the entire state of Oregon. But our focus is Beaverton at its core. Just a quick recap of the OSC's portfolio companies. During the past 10 years, there have been 46 companies that have been brought into the portfolio. There have been 65% that are currently in operation. 26% of the companies have ceased operation over time. And there's been 9% of the companies that have successfully exited and been acquired or sold to larger entities that were looking to expand into various areas. These companies have gone on after the Startup Center to raise over $100 million in additional funding from other investors. So we were the first dollar in as the Startup Center, and that has led to each of these companies raising millions in additional funding. The stats here with the number of exits, companies in operation, those that have ceased operations, this is the ratio that is the norm for the investment industry. In terms of companies that at this stage that receive dollars, typically there's about a 10%, 9 to 10% exit rate of some sort, liquidity event, and then the rate of ceased operations is actually performing better because typically that's about 50% cease operation rate for startups. So for the companies in this portfolio right now, they're doing well as can be in terms of this segment of the industry. Couple things for the impact in terms of people in our community who founded these companies. This is, I think, important to note that of the companies, we have 41% that are BIPOC founders, and we have 37% of the companies that are founded by women. Just to put this in perspective from a national standpoint, female founders nationally from venture funds receive 1.2% of all of the available funding. So the fact that we have over a third of our companies that are female founded and have received funding, you can see the impact here in terms of how much we over-index. Same thing with BIPOC founders. For example, Black founders receive less than 0.5% of venture money that's out there. So when you look at that and you look at the other groups that are within the portfolio organization, other groups, you see that we're at over 40% of BIPOC founders getting funded. So that ratio right there tells you that compared to the national numbers, we've definitely over-index and support our community in terms of our founders so that we can have that impact in our business community and help them launch their businesses. So the impact to Beaverton, providing the professional resources for founders and for the nonprofit leaders. These are resources in terms of guidance and advisory services that would typically cost them really, really expensive consulting fees. We're providing that for free in terms of creating that kind of business ecosystem and providing that nonprofit development aspect of it. Just in the last 6 months since I joined the Startup Center, we've averaged an event a month, so 6 events. We've had 219 people that have registered for our events. And of that, 34 are startups. 29 of those are leaders of nonprofit organizations. 23 of those have been investors who have actively put in dollars into these companies. And 2 even were from venture funds that are looking to support our efforts here in Beaverton with these startups and nonprofits. Quick overview of the program, and this information is available in that we're focused on programming where we can cover very specific functional roles that help the founders and nonprofit leaders be more effective in their business organizations. Events and competitions that help to highlight the companies, help to highlight some of the nonprofit organizations that are part of this group, and then also in terms of community-facing opportunities here, where we try to bring together the commercial or for-profit enterprises along with our nonprofit organizations so that we can build some of those relationships. Right now, today, we have a couple of folks in the audience who are the leaders of these organizations. Andy from Elite Sports Academy is here, along with David from Pack Space, one of our portfolio companies who are in the group from 2025. I think David's here. And we have Melanie from Howl at the Spoon. She just got back from a global startup competition, and she's here as well. I think Elliot from Humankind Homes, Sustainable Home Building, I don't know if he's here, but we've had a number of founders who are here to also support, continuing to have this program for our community. Just so that you're aware, the most common scenario that we'll see throughout the business and nonprofit community is that they're operating in independent silos with really no integration or crossover in most cases. For-profit stays in their lane, nonprofits stay in their own lane, and try to address this without any sort of crossover or sort of cross-support, if you will. The Startup Center is looking to bring this together where we have a for-profit and nonprofit organizations working together in a bridge format that brings together the purpose of various initiatives where companies can be a B Corp registration that allows them to have a social or purpose-driven aspect to their business. Other examples are different ways that financially for-profit organization can support nonprofits and build that type of partnerships through initiatives like a buy one, give one type of programs that you're seeing here. From the Startup Center, we're working very closely with nonprofits like Elite Sports Academy that is going to implement this buy one, give one model with some additional funding from the nonprofits will receive from for-profit organizations so that they're not reliant on grant funding. We know that grant funding has really been limited this past year. How do we sustain some of these nonprofits in terms of how they're going to receive a recurring funding source? So rather than looking at pursuing more donations, this is how do you drive some profits that'll fund some of these nonprofit organizations. So it's a model that is utilized by a number of brands and companies out in the business world nationally. We're trying to bring that locally so that we have local nonprofits who partner with for-profit enterprises. And we've got some pilot programs that we're going to launch later this year that demonstrates exactly this process. So we wanted to share that with you, and we'll be open for any questions or comments from any of the counselors, or for, if not, then we'll just follow up with additional updates on the recurring basis.
Counselor Duggar. Counselor Husson.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I know we had an opportunity to meet about a year ago. I just wanted to take this opportunity to kind of re-invite what I have said in the past. One of my fears of this funding and this work was really that we have a lot of communities that are being impacted by what's going on 2, 3, 4 years ago. And so when we received this funding, my concern was always that we have nonprofits and orgs that are struggling with communities that are struggling. So I know some of this funding is focused on business, and I appreciate how you're trying to bridge nonprofit. I just want to urge a continuation of, we have families who don't have their basic needs being met. And so how are we partnering with nonprofit organizations that are truly doing that work in the community? Because it's a really big need right now. So I'm happy to have follow-up conversations with you, but I want to really echo, my biggest concern when this came to us multiple times was is this where we should be investing our money 2, 3, a couple of years ago? And I feel like, I know I fought to keep saying that, but I'm going to just say it again, like, how are we investing in the needs of our community? I think sports are important. I think activities are important. But I also think the core of what families need, like food and housing and those kinds of things, is also important. So thank you.
Council President.
Yeah, Jim, I just want to say thank you for this. I've had the opportunity to be the council liaison for the OSC, and I've seen it transform. I have seen it go from a good organization with some impact to essentially building the infrastructure to have an outsized impact within both the for-profit and the nonprofit, and that intersection of B Corps. And I love the operating model. I love the pilots that we're doing with after-school athletic programs. That's going to help a lot of people in our community. That's going to expand to Beaverton School District, as Jim mentioned, and with the Elite Academy. These are good people doing good work, and I'm just really proud that I see a lot of ROI for our city money that we put in. I can't wait to see it expand and continue to serve both those for-profit companies that need a little help. As you've seen, business owners of color, women, don't get the level of investment that they get here in Beaverton, and I wish we could change that nationally, but we can start by being a really good example, and I think the OSC is doing that. On the for-profit side, we're launching the NPI right now, and I just couldn't be more proud of the work that the team is doing to put this together. This is not an easy thing to launch, so I commend you and your team for that too. And I look forward to seeing how this unravels, unfolds. That's the word I'm looking for. Not unravel, unfolds over the next couple of years, because I think it's going to be continuing to have significant impact and escalating that as we connect the for-profit and the nonprofit side and those synergies and that sort of thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Edward.
I almost clicked turn it on when you said Council President. Thank you for coming. I know we connected a few times before. I know you have some of experience and expertise in this part of the business. One thing I wanted to ask is that, yes, we're trying to connect for-profit incubator businesses to non-profit, basically incubating organizations. I want to maybe suggest that maybe we contact those successful companies who's doing really well, that maybe they, donate some of the money and support our nonprofit businesses who's already existing. Because as you know, nonprofits fail because of lack of funding. Not that they have a heart or not work, but it's lack of funding. But if you could contact the previous businesses that successfully launched, have gone, and then became a big multi-million-dollar businesses, maybe they can also match some of, whatever they can do to support our nonprofit organizations in this crucial era where we are getting strapped with the funding and the federal government threatening us with funding. It's important that businesses step up and support those nonprofit organizations who actually do work in our community. So I highly suggest that. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Councillor Tivnon.
There we go. I joined council in 2021, and the nonprofit incubator was a phrase that was getting thrown around. It wasn't tied to any money yet. There was just this idea, I think, Mayor Bay, it might have been yours, that you were advocating for and championing back then. And trying to figure out how to create a landing spot for both existing nonprofits, but also ones that didn't exist yet, of just giving a place for people that were interested in starting one that had a cause that they felt there was a gap around that they wanted to focus on. And then the journey to figure out where we're going to get the funding and where's it going to sit, how does it look to construct that. And I don't remember whose idea it was to link it with the Oregon Startup Center. I was the liaison for it back then. But I think it's an ingenious idea. And I was curious if in your kind of ramping up in your role there, did you find any other examples of this type of an incubator throughout the country where there's this melding of the for-profit and the nonprofit space?
So specifically looking at the Portland metro area and this region, the Northwest region, no other entity like this in partnership with the city or any sort of local government has a combination of for-profit and nonprofit programs that are integrated. Mm-hmm. So that is making us truly unique. I've had numerous discussions with other resource providers here in the Portland metro area. Reason we're getting so many collaborations from all of those organizations in support of what we're doing here in Beaverton is that we are the only ones doing this. Mm-hmm. Venture funds ignore this type of startup center because it's so early. So typically they're not even interested in a conversation. But the fact that we're having venture funds who are seeing this as an opportunity where you see a for-profit and a nonprofit component working together, that's why we're getting venture funds representatives who are attending our events. And this is a broader reach than just locally. There's some that are regional and national funds that are looking to consider some support for this in terms of how could they justify this in their portfolio to put dollars into Beaverton. So that's the conversation that's taking place because of this unique model. So credit to everybody here for allowing this to take place and putting the pieces into the organization so that we're able to do this.
Yeah, and just to close out my thoughts on this, that was what I was reading between the lines, was that this is unique and it is drawing attention, and it's drawing attention from both sides. And I think it's answering to a question and a problem that existed on both sides, of both the for-profit side trying to figure out where to put their philanthropic dollars to best use, and on the nonprofit side, how do you operate one? How do you help them navigate all of the different hoops that nonprofits have to jump through to stay compliant, to make sure that they're doing things appropriately and finding funding?
Yes.
And it's very exciting to see these early stages. And thank you for bringing some innovative thinking to how to create that bridge that you were describing. I'm looking forward to hearing more updates and getting examples, especially on the nonprofit side, of both the types of nonprofits that are being attracted to this, and the success stories, the lessons learned, and also just hearing more about those bridges of how business and nonprofits are supporting each other and operating. So, thank you.
I appreciate you, Jem, and coming this evening. I appreciate also the meeting you helped facilitate 2 weeks ago with PERC about utilizing that space for them and meeting space in a Washington County landing. I know Councilor Teeter happened to be walking through that meeting at the same time. And I know Beaverton's Wake Up Beaverton is waking up under a new nonprofit and executive director, and they've also been in the nonprofit incubator talking to you. And Wake Up Beaverton is working as a mutual aid here in Beaverton. So I think we have the opportunity to do multiple things at once: help address community needs, which is really the idea behind the nonprofit incubator, and fulfill this other role of sports and life in our community. And so I appreciate what you're doing here at the helm, and it's been a long time coming, and the space is wonderful, and I look forward to what comes next. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you.
All right, Council President, consent agenda. Oh, I guess we're skipped over the city manager. City manager.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. We have a few announcements. I'll keep them brief. We'll get that slide deck up for you. The first announcement is the 2026 State of the City. And so we'd like you to join us on Monday, March 2nd at the Patricia Research Center for the Arts. We will be hosting, as you know, the 2026 State of the City. Free tickets are available. If you'd like to pick up a ticket, go to www.thereser.org, and we hope to see you there. Similarly, the next slide talks about the Best Beaverton, and so we will be recognizing outstanding individuals, businesses, and nonprofits, plus community groups that embody the spirit of Beaverton. So nominations are now open, so we encourage you to submit your recommendations by Sunday, February 8th. And you've got the website there, beavertonoregon.gov/SOTC. Next slide. We have fiscal sustainability forums coming to a neighborhood near you. Get ready to hear from your city leaders and share your ideas about the city's fiscal recovery. All community members are welcome and invited. If you'd like to find more information, please visit beavertonoregon.gov/fiscal sustainability. And we also like to include a city council priority each time we do these updates with you, and today is housing. So I have a few things I just wanted to share on that front. As you know, City Council identified housing as a continued priority for not only this year, but the next fiscal year. And that's why we'd like to share an update on the South Cooper Mountain neighborhood. This is one of the city's most rapidly growing areas, with more than 1,600 homes built and thousands more approved or underway. The area will eventually include up to 3,500 homes, parks, trails, schools, and a variety of housing options, including more than 240 affordable housing units for low-income families and seniors, like Amity Orchard, that opened in 2025. And just adjacent is Cooper Mountain Community Plan. That will add up to 5,000 more homes, along with beautiful parks and commercial spaces. And these developments reflect Beaverton's commitment to affordable, sustainable growth. This is very exciting. I encourage the community to check out our website, /Cooper Mountain, if you'd like to know more information. And there's some more good news. We have our Climate Action Open House was a complete success, and we want to take this opportunity to thank the attendees that were inspired by the involvement and the ideas that were shared that evening. So what is next? The updated Climate Action Plan is now under review. We have a proposed draft on our website that we will present to the City Council in mid-February. Next slide. And last, we wanted to thank Beaverton. Your voice matters. The Beaverton Community Survey is now closed, but we are grateful to everyone who shared their thoughts on key issues like safety, housing, transportation, and livability. Your input in these type of surveys matters, and stay tuned as we share takeaways and next steps about this survey results. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Council.
All right, thank you. Council President, consent, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on tonight's agenda? Councilor Husson.
Yeah, I'm excited to pass the consent, which is very big. And for those of you who are joining us, it's all the things we vote on right away. I did just want to comment on the city council retreat portion. I really appreciated the priorities that were put together, and I'm super excited for focusing on budget framework and strategic planning. I do just want to call out community safety. The language here says maintaining capacity and tailored services. I know we're not in a position to really start talking about what safety looks like in our community, but I ask all of you, especially in this time, to continue to think about that so we can sort of think what 3, 5, 10 years down the line looks like in our community.
Can the city recorder call the roll?
Counselor Duggar?
Yes.
Counselor Hartmeyer Prigg?
Yes.
Counselor Hassan?
Yes.
Counselor Kimmy?
Yes.
Counselor Teeter?
Yes.
Counselor Tivnon?
Yes.
Mayor Beatty?
Yes.
Motion passes 7 yes, 0 no.
Right. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing on ordinance number 4877, an ordinance amending Beaverton Code Chapter 5 by adding Beaverton Code Chapter 5.19, codifying Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act and declaring an emergency. Anyone wishing to speak at this hearing should follow the instructions included on tonight's agenda. For those attending in person, please complete the yellow visitor card found at the back table near the doors at the back of the council chamber and give the card to the city recorder sitting to the end of the dais. Each member of the public will have up to 3 minutes to speak. When you speak, please give your name and city of residence for the record. Council member may ask questions of the presenter, the city attorney, or staff that will help the council make a decision. Is there a staff presentation, city manager?
Yes, we can have the city attorney give that presentation if you'd like.
I'm sorry?
We can have the city attorney provide a brief presentation if you'd
Please,
like.
Scott?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Manager. Briefly, I know Council is very familiar with this issue, so I'll be brief. On November 18, 2025, Council asked staff to draft an ordinance codifying the Oregon Sanctuary Promise Act in City Code. That's what we did, and that's what is before you tonight. And that's what we had a first reading of on the 6th. Briefly, what that would do, consistent with state law, is prohibit the city from using city property, money, and equipment for the purpose of immigration enforcement, prohibit city personnel from providing information to a federal agency for the purpose of immigration enforcement, except as required by law, prohibit city personnel from granting a federal immigration agency access to areas of a city facility not normally open to the public, prohibit the city from denying services, privileges, and the like from an individual in custody on the basis of immigration status, prohibit city personnel from inquiring into or collecting information about immigration status, except as required by law or necessary for a benefit a person is seeking, and authorizes the city manager to take steps to train staff about the city's sanctuary policy and create signage about areas open to the public and for authorized personnel only. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I know the city manager is as well.
Questions from the council? All right, seeing none, I will open up the public hearing. We do have a long list, so I'll call 3 in order. We do have an elected official, and part of our often gets to go first. So Barbie Minor, you'll be up. Daryl Roy after that, followed by Blaine.
Mayor, before we get started, what was the time limit?
3 minutes.
I had my remarks up and now Wi-Fi is not loading my comments. Here we are. All right, my name is Barbie Miner and I'm a resident of the city of Beaverton. Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and city staff. My name is Barbie Miner, and while I have the honor of serving in an elected capacity on the THPRD Board of Directors, I'm speaking to you tonight from my heart in my personal capacity as a 20-plus year resident of Beaverton. I have a special request. I hope, if you will, just for a moment, in hearing my remarks, you listen and engage from a place of human to human. I ask that you think back to a time before you became an elected yourself, to a time when perhaps you were frustrated and dismayed with how your local government was being led, and perhaps that drove you to what you're doing now. Ultimately, this may have even drove you to run for office so that you could make positive change for your community. For me, this is the root of why tonight is so incredibly personal. I'm here because my neighbors are being kidnapped. I'm here because families are being torn apart every single day. I'm here because Paulino Martin, a 35-year resident of Beaverton, abducted right here off of Allen Boulevard on November 18th and deported to Mexico in 3 days' time, is currently in critical condition, fighting for his life due to an infection he caught in the Tacoma detention facility. I'm here because multiple young adults, friends of my daughters, have called me asking for my help because their family has been impacted by ICE activity in Beaverton. While I appreciate that this is a challenging and unprecedented time, doing the right thing often requires courage and moral conviction to meet the moment. If ever there was a time to push the limits of what is reasonable and demonstrate your commitment to stand with the people you've been elected to represent, it is now. I met many of you during the racial uprising of 2020 in the wake of George Floyd's murder. Several of you connected with me personally because of my multiracial family, then and over the last few years, to reaffirm your dedication and conviction to racial and social justice. Let me be clear. The system that has delivered violence at the hands of police is the same system that's terrorizing our neighborhoods and communities. This is an issue of morality, of what is right and wrong. It is a moment demanding that we move outside of what may seem comfortable and doable, and instead center those most harmed and use every policy tactic available to help our community be safe. It is a moment that demands us to lean in and act rather than be stymied by the limitations of that these systems dictate. I implore you to take meaningful action, amending our city laws to reflect our sanctuary status and enshrine the safety of our community. Safety by adding more reporting for us, creating accountability for those who break the law and use excessive force. These are tiny but tangible actions. Listen to your constituents, feel their pain, hear their frustration, and then ask yourself, can I do more? And if you can, the answer is yes. Yes, you can do more. You have the power. Please, your neighbors are counting on you. I am too. Thank you.
I think it's, last name's Roy, and sorry, I can't, it might be Parker or it might be Derlin. Last name Roy?
Hi, it's Darren Roy. I'm here afraid every day. It's hard to concentrate, it's hard to sleep. I work in mental health, I work with my clients, I get to see the pain in their faces as well. The personal impact. I'm here dismayed with how much permission we've given to the current powers that be to take everything that we've worked so hard to achieve in this country, in this world, and make it feel so meaningless, so hopeless. I'm here as I see some of the wording, and it's within laws, federal or state laws. And it's hard to see that meaning much when you look at what the administration is doing currently. And I see an absence of how we protect our community members and stand up for them and hold accountable those who are breaking the laws that need to be held accountable. I'm disappointed. Something I'm noticing here is a little bit of lack of time for silence, for reflection, for reverence. From one moment to the next, from one commenter to the next. So I want to give a minute and finish here and feel some of the impact of the speakers that came before me and maybe some of the impact of your hearts.
Blaine Soleimani Pearson.
The first last name, so that was good. Good evening, Mayor, councilors. My name is Blaine Soleimani Pearson. I'm a Beaverton resident. I'm an attorney, and I am a husband to an immigrant to this country. And what's been going on has been sickening, meaning making me sick all the time, not just disgusted, but just making me feel ill. And I took it upon myself with some other community members to come up with some recommended policy for creating some action, stuff that was missing. I've sent that to the council. I believe you've seen it. I'm not going to talk much more about the impact. I think more people are going to talk about that. I want to talk about my document and what I'm asking for the council to do, because without taking actionable policy to combine it with the sanctuary promise, you've really just given us pretty words. So the first thing we're asking for is for law enforcement to be directed to take seriously investigations, allegations of criminal violations. What it appears to the public is happening right now is there's a lot of assumption things are ICE, and when it's ICE, we can't do anything. The supremacy clause. And I've heard the supremacy clause be used and bandied about as a reason why we can't do it. We can't cross that line. And so we're not willing to go up to the line. We're not willing to see where the line is. And what I have drafted and provided to the council is designed to comply. I've worked with defense attorneys as well, policy writers. It's designed to comply with the supremacy clause, not run afoul of it. So first, we're asking for police to investigate and take seriously allegations, write reports. We're not asking them to have armed standoff with federal law enforcement. Maybe some people are. That's not what this document's asking for. Observe, write reports like they normally would do, and refer charges to the district attorney. Let the district attorney decide if they're going to prosecute. And then if they don't, we'll know where to go next. But at least you will have done what you can do, and the police will have done what they can do. It will make the community feel just a little bit safer to know at least the police are taking these things seriously and throwing up legal obstacles. The next piece is that we're asking for more humanitarian focus on when people are abducted. If their cars are left behind, normally we may just call a tow truck. Or if their children are left behind, call DHS, get them in touch with DHS. Make additional efforts to make contact with family members, friends, to avoid additional costs, to avoid children being put through that process and be traumatized through that process. There is a request for a federal log, you'll see that duplicated because one is meant for the police and one is meant for you as a city, because both can do it in different ways. And created a log that the public can view on when there's interaction with ICE. And last is a policy about surveillance, because companies like Flock are using our civilian data and selling it to ICE. Beaverton is not using that. We just ask you to write a policy that nothing like that will be used with any company in the future. Thank you for your time.
Catherine Spears, followed by Tanya.
Hello, my name's Catherine Spires, and I've lived in Beaverton for 25 years. I'm a homeowner. I have no criminal record. I pay my taxes, everything. Raise children in this community. I will no longer vote for anyone that does not stand against ICE. Okay, we have to do something. We can no longer sit idly by. I've watched the Beaverton Police Department stand by Trump supporters, high-fiving, shaking their hands. This was in November. This was when Beaverton had, when we had our farmers market up here. There's a Trump tent that's set up in our neighborhood, and every police officer that came near went over there to say hi and to show that they were in solidarity. That's why we have what's going on now. We're not asking them to fight with the federal entities, the ICE. We want them documenting these. What this man said, we want our protection. We want something to be done. They can follow along with what's going on. They can document things. If they can't stand to the federal government, they can at least document what is going on so that we can have a record of what's playing here. I have voted every single time to raise my property taxes, to fund libraries, fire departments, schools. I have done that every single year, every single time. This is no longer anything I'm going to vote for. No one. We have to stand up now. This is important. I live in a very high Hispanic community. I have never had an issue. Never. I have stuff on my property. My neighbors are my family. We live right up the road from the farmers market. It's a place of community. It is a place that we need to stand together. This has to change. If we can't do anything, we can at least document this. We can at least send our police officers there in order to calm things down and to ask for the right documentation. If they have a warrant, show it to a police officer, something that they're not snatching people off the road. I am letting my neighbors know that my house is a safe area for them to come. Can you say the same? Is there any place in this community that someone could go to get help? To say that we need this in our community. We shouldn't be here for this. This is the first time I've ever come to anything like this. I've never spoken out before, but it's that important. And we stand together with this, and I will never vote for any tax increase until things change.
After Tanya will be Cayman Minor.
Hello. Okay. So, hi, my name's Tanya Macedo. I am here to represent the Mexican American voice. My parents are Mexican immigrants. I am a homeowner. I live in Washington County, very involved in the community and our CPO program and the Racial Equity Committee as well that Washington County has. And I'm here to speak on the Sanctuary Promise Act, and I want Beaverton to be declared a sanctuary city. Enough is enough. ICE is ravaging our communities, families are being separated. Our community members are being not only physically hurt, but emotionally traumatized. We're seeing kids be the victims when their parents are picking them up from school. Their parents are getting taken, their family members are getting taken. It's really sad to be schools just being terrorized, truly. This has got to stop. I think we all know the impact on people. We're seeing food insecurity, we're seeing emotional distress, but we're also seeing the economic impact, and I'm sure that y'all are seeing it as well, right? We're seeing businesses being impacted, we're seeing workers not showing up. And what's actually funny is that when you look at an economic report, people are moving out of Oregon. We need people to move here. We need immigrants to pay taxes. So financially, it doesn't make sense as well. Yes, people matter, but I know that y'all are also very concerned with the economy as well. So I hope that y'all are able to step in. I know that the sanctuary city status is just a first step. There's a lot of work that needs to happen. I know this job is hard, but y'all are in it now, and this is an incredibly hard time in history. So to quote Martin Luther King Jr., he who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it. So I hope you do the right choice. Thank you.
After Cayman is Claire Alexander.
That was on. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Beaverton City Council and City of Beaverton. My name is Cayman Minor. I'm a husband, father, brother, son. I also work for the largest retail sporting company in the world. I'm a coach, a friend, and a small business owner. I'm also an American and a resident of Beaverton, Oregon. There was a time before in our country and society where most things were not fair and just for everyone. I also believe many folks in this room have stated and said or believed that they would be different and act different and would do different things to help change things for the better during that time. Most of us are awfully aware we're in a moment now in our country that reflects much of what we have seen in parallel to the nastiness and ugliness of the society and behaviors of the past. Unleashed agents of the state abusing, torturing, and murdering Americans and residents alike. As leaders in our society and local government, we are in that moment, sitting at a dais or standing in the crowd. Spilling words is not enough when you are the leader in a moment that requires action. In these moments, our city requires the kind of leadership that is selfless and does not care about campaigns that they're running, and looking to be careful as not to disrupt some other side when the safety and the protection of the people is required to be put first. The more we see in other cities, the more we see that other cities take action, the more we understand what our city of Beaverton is not doing. The families of these residents that have been abducted and kidnapped are citizens and Americans who will not forget, they will not forget what you did not do in this moment. Words mean nothing without action with teeth. The people of Beaverton will now see what action you take. Find a way. The policy has been handed to you. Thank you.
After Claire is Evelyn Cockler.
is Claire Alexander. Thank you for letting me come here and talk to you tonight. I have lived in Washington County for 10 years, and before that, I lived in South Minneapolis. I used to live a block away from where Renee Good was murdered. I used to live 7 blocks away from where George Floyd was murdered. So I am speaking to you from the perspective of somebody who has lived here and called this my home, and South Minneapolis and called that my first home. Portland is not ready for what's coming. I could speak about human rights and decency, and other people are going to say that very eloquently. I'm very emotional. The thing I want to say to you is I am so proud of the response that Minneapolis has done to protect humans, citizens, residents, everyone. But they've had 5 years to get ready because they have been organizing as a community since George Floyd. Portland needs every protective factor they can set up, because I promise you Portland is on the federal government's radar. The bad things that are happening here are going to get worse. The atrocities are going to continue. Everyone I know in Minnesota has witnessed a kidnapping in the last week. I would encourage you to ratify Beaverton as a sanctuary city. I would also encourage you to seriously consider all of the reasonable things that Councillor Soleimani has proposed. Those are a great start. They are what are being implemented right now as fast as they can in the city of Minneapolis. I want to appeal to the moderate or conservative members of this council that are on the fence about if this is a bold action, if this is going to draw more attention. You already have the attention on you. And I would encourage you to look at the social media accounts of all of the police precincts in the first tier and second tier suburbs of Minneapolis and St. Paul right now, because they are terrified. They don't know what to do because they are getting different messages from federal guidance and from local city and council and state guidance. One of the best things you can do right now as a protective factor is make it clear where you stand. Make it clear what their role is going to be. Make it clear what you want them to do to protect people's dignity and human rights. Because the bad faith actors are going to be held accountable to the standards you put in place. And the good faith actors are going to be grateful that they've got guidance, that they can do something. Because, I mean, look at Apple Valley's police department. Look at all the first tier suburbs in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Those police officers feel like their hands are tied and they don't know what to do. Even the good cops can't do anything right now. And in the meantime, more people are getting hurt. It's falling on citizens and residents and neighbors to do this because everybody else is just trying to prevent a civil war. So please do this. Please take care of people. I'm available if anybody wants to talk to me about my experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. After Evelyn is Jessica McBride.
Hi, Mayor Beatty, President Duggar, and members of City Council. My name is Evelyn Kocher. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a lifelong Beavertonian. I am here to urge you to vote yes on this resolution and on Councilor Hassan and Councilor Kimmy's proposed amendments, as well as the information brought forth by Barry Johnson-Smith and Blaine Soleimani Pearson. I first appeared before the City Council on November 25th, asking you to declare a state of emergency in response to the immigration activity across the state, hitting Beaverton especially disproportionately hard. In these past 2 months since that meeting, cities and counties such as Hillsborough, Forest Grove, Portland, Salem, Washington County, and Multnomah County have taken action, strengthened their laws, and even allocated their rainy day funds to go towards the affected families. Beaverton, despite starting this process earlier than all of them, has done none of these things, despite suffering from some of the most deportations in the state, including some of the higher profile ones. I challenge each and every one of you to look me in the eye and tell me you feel comfortable saying that you've done all you can done to protect Beaverton and its immigrant communities. Look in the eyes of Paulino Martin San Pedro, kidnapped on Allen after work. The family of Madi Khambabad Zadeh, arrested after dropping his kid off at preschool right down the street from Southridge High School. Or the family of Israel Garcia, who was sent to the hospital after an ice stop on Murray and Shoals Ferry. Do you believe that you have done all that you can to protect them? While this codification of sanctuary laws is a good start, there's so much that the city can do with its power. Luckily, many of these items are included in Councilor Hassan and Councilor Kimmy's proposed amendment, as well as the information brought forth by Blaine Soleimani Pearson and Barry Johnson-Smith. I would also like to draw attention to the fact that according to the ordinance, the city manager is authorized to take any delineated steps, but not required to do so. I urge the council to hold her accountable to the implementation of this document. When I look at the past 2 months, I think about all that immigrants in Beaverton have gone through while this document has been languishing in bureaucracy. I see people in my community, People just like me, immigrants like me, who are not lucky enough to have papers or bureaucratic knowledge, struggle with violence perpetuated by their own government with no answers from the city. Despite putting out statements to the contrary, I have seen confusion with ICE staging and police stations, making folks wonder if the city that they live in and that they love is even on their side. It's time to put our money where our mouths are and take concrete action to protect the immigrant community that, like us, call the city home. Vote yes on these ordinances to take the first step towards using city power to protect our immigrant neighbors. I look forward to holding you accountable to ensure that your actions match up with your words. I and many others in this room will crawl over broken glass to protect our neighbors and to oppose the invasion of our communities. I challenge you to do the same. Thank you.
After Jessica is David Kearns.
Hello and good evening, Mayor Beatty and City Council. For the record, my name is Jessica McBride and I live in Beaverton. Tonight, I want to urge you to adopt Councilor Hassan and Councilor Kimmy's proposed amendment to this ordinance before you vote yes. While I appreciate this body's support of efforts to codify our city sanctuary promise, the current version does not provide the clarity or action that our community needs. Last week at my NAC meeting, I asked our BPD officer what the protocol was when they encountered ICE. And his response was, it's handled on a, quote, case-by-case basis. And this really concerns me because it is impossible for our community to know how or if local law enforcement will respond to the escalating and unlawful actions of masked and armed individuals claiming to be federal law enforcement. From speed violations to traffic hazards to excessive use of force and detainment of our neighbors without even a judicial warrant, these individuals are putting every member of our community at risk. So I urge you to adopt the Attorney General's stance that the Supremacy Clause does not protect federal agents who assault or endanger the public, to create clear protocols for encounters with federal immigration agents and in the aftermath of a detainment for all city staff and BPD officers, including those that work inside Beaverton schools, and to require a log of all city employees' interactions with federal immigration enforcement that is to be shared with City Council and with the public. What is happening in Minnesota can and is likely to happen here, as a city in one of the most diverse counties in Oregon. You have the opportunity to take a clear stance against the kidnappings happening across our city and our nation, and to show other municipalities in our area what courage looks like. Adopt Councilor Hassan and Councilor Kimmy's proposed amendment and continue to look for ways to protect every member of our community, regardless of their immigration status. It's time to meet the moment and defend the United States Constitution that you all swore an oath to protect. Beaverton will be behind you. Thank you.
After David is Antonia Lopez.
Good evening, councilors. Mayor Beatty. I'm David Kearns. I'm a Beaverton resident. I sent a longer version of this testimony to each of your emails this afternoon. While codifying Beaverton's sanctuary status is a step in the right direction, this ordinance does not include any language to define the role of local law enforcement for incidents involving federal officers. To our community, this creates an environment in which we cannot trust that Beaverton police will act in the interest of our own safety. Right now in Beaverton, vulnerable communities are afraid to go shopping for groceries, attend their schools or churches, or even go to their jobs for fear of being abducted. As a U.S.-born white man, I am speaking to you on behalf of all of those who are not able to be here tonight because they know there is a very real possibility they might end up in the back of a van or even shot by a federal agent. Lack of federal protocol is not only dangerous for our community, it also threatens our own law enforcement agencies. Yesterday, Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff at the White House, stated that local and state law enforcement in Minneapolis had been ordered to stand down and surrender to federal authority. While this was rebutted and rebuked by local law enforcement agencies and local elected officials, statements like this create gray areas in jurisdiction. These federal agencies thrive in that ambiguity. We must adopt clear procedures and protocols to govern interactions between our local law enforcement agencies and federal agents and set the expectations with Beaverton residents. A community cannot trust or rely on a law enforcement agency when they see them repeatedly failing to act against these feds that have shown no ability or intention to de-escalate and see no consequences for murder. If this bill passes in its current form, then it is ceremonial, an important but largely performative statement that falls woefully short of what we need to actually protect our communities. Councilors, the reality that Minneapolis is facing can and will come to our streets. In fact, the events leading up to that shooting of Renee Good bear a striking resemblance to an account I heard shared in this very room last month. Right now, we have armed, untrained feds in our communities abducting our neighbors, our friends, and our family. They are emboldened by a federal government that has sent a clear message to them that they will use considerable resources to defend any action taken by its officers, including the use of lethal force on legal observers. The Supremacy Clause has often been cited as a reason not to act. We have federal officers violating both state and federal laws daily. They speed recklessly down our streets, unlawfully seize property, break in without appropriate warrants, and abduct members of our community. The Supremacy Clause does not place these violent individuals above the law. If we fail to enforce laws because we are afraid of the response from our federal government, then we put them above the law. When we fail to enforce laws for indefensible perpetrators because they wear a DHS badge, then we put them above the law. My ask is simple. Adopt the ordinance with the proposed amendments by Councilor Hassan and Councilor Kimmy. This will give Beaverton a legal foundation to meaningfully pressure feds operating within our city to comply with the laws that are designed to keep our communities safe and to prosecute those that cannot. Thank you for your time.
Kirsten is up next.
My name is Antonia Lopez, and I'd like to remind our city leaders that codification of sanctuary laws will be nothing more than performative action if we do not enact actionable policy to go along with it. But you already know this. You have been presented with policy tonight that is actionable. The work has been done for you. This isn't something that can wait. We as a community have been working tirelessly. It's time that you do the bare minimum. We want you to adopt anything from this policy today. Law enforcement response is the most time sensitive, as it seems they need direction in order to do their job while navigating the Supremacy Clause. And the following was meant for the Beaverton Police Department, who apparently, the same way they chose not to watch the news because the news is depressing, has decided not to be here tonight. Maybe it was to claim ignorance about the lawlessness that has come to our streets. Beaverton Police, I would urge you to rethink the way that you are interacting with the community that you swore an oath to. And this is for Lieutenant Howard. Thank you for recognizing that I'm carrying a lot and suggesting I get support. All of my support is here tonight with me. Captain Metropolito, are these enough people for you to believe that the Beaverton Police has lost public trust? We will not let you claim ignorance any longer. We will continue to bring the images and the screams of my community to you until you can no longer ignore us. And to the city manager, I would like for you to return any of my calls that I've been leaving for you for weeks. And the community has a right to know if Sergeant Lamb is on leave during an internal investigation that is putting into question his credibility.
Madeline is up next.
Hello, my name is Kirsten Gourlay, and I'm a resident of Beaverton, and I'm here with everyone else in the room who has spoken so far to urge you to vote in favor of codifying Beaverton as a sanctuary city, but also to say that this is the bare minimum, and it does not do really anything to protect our neighbors. Our neighbors are being kidnapped off the street and being forcibly taken. And saying that the city will not comply with ICE doesn't do anything to protect them from being kidnapped. There's no direct action in this proposal that says how we are going to prevent this from happening, how we're going to support our community members, how we're going to respond when they are brutally assaulted. The others who have come up before me have talked about a lot of direct action that you can take, and I agree with a lot of the suggestions that were brought up. I think when we have federal agents who are coming into our community with masks on and no ID and taking people off the street, that this is a sign that we are living under fascism, and that this is a time to stand up and to fight back. And if we do not fight back, this will get worse.
After Madeline is Shannon Walton Clark, followed by Tammy Carpenter.
Hi, my name is Mad Conca. I live in Beaverton, and I am here as a member of the Beaverton community to voice my support for codifying the Sanctuary Promise Act, as well as adopting the councilor's proposed and very necessary amendments. I stand with all of the previous community members' testimonies here tonight, and I truly thank them for putting into words what I cannot. What one of the previous speakers has said has stuck with me, so I will echo it. I urge you to ask yourself constantly if there's anything more that you can do, and if the answer is yes, then just do it. Now. No ifs and or buts. Now is a time for action, please. So I'm here not only to ask, but to beg for you to take urgent legal action to protect our neighbors, our friends, and our community. Thank you.
Mayor and councilors, I've called the Greater Beaverton area home for the past 6 years. Most of us in this room tonight, myself included, have spent the past 6 years supporting you in your leadership and elected position in this council. We campaigned for you. We made phone calls for you. We hosted fundraisers, we wrote postcards, so much more. I worked in this very building for 2 years as the mayor's chief of staff. Not because we ever expected an exchange of political favor, and not because we entered into these spaces with an eye towards a transactional relationship with any of you. We did it because we believed in you. We believed in the campaign slogans. We believed in the stump speeches. We believed you when you said you wanted to build a better Beaverton. And we were patient. We waited while the charter change went into effect. We waited while this council got its feet under itself. We waited for the permanent city manager. We waited through COVID. We waited and we waited, and we are done waiting. The countless members of our community that have been kidnapped off the streets cannot wait anymore. Paulino Martin, who is fighting for his life in Mexico after being violently taken from this community, his family cannot wait. The children, terrified their parents won't come home, cannot wait. The families who are struggling to pay bills, buy groceries, afford rent because they cannot go to work, cannot wait. Renee Good couldn't wait. It is beyond time for this council and this mayor to make good on the promise of building a better Beaverton for all. This codification is a small step and one that is long overdue. Now is the time to go beyond the small, meaningful first step and enact the more thorough and impactful version that has been sent to you earlier this week and is before you tonight. Thank you.
Hi, friends. For the record, my name is Tammy Carpenter. I serve on the Beaverton School Board. I'm here tonight speaking on my own behalf. I don't support the ordinance as written. I fear it is more performative than maybe you intended, or maybe you did intend it to be performative. Either way, I'm concerned that acknowledge, I think the parking, the signs are good, Councilor Duggar. And there's no mention of police in this. And I think that, as we've been hearing from the community, that's a real oversight. And my concern is if you pass this ordinance tonight without any inclusion of how you're going to direct your police on our streets, in our schools, that it won't be revisited. It will be, we're done, we did it, you know, we'll pat ourselves on the back and move on. And I think this is the opportunity. Again, so many have spoken more eloquently that this is the moment that you have been waiting for as our leaders, to show this leadership that you've talked about throughout your campaigns. You've promised that you are leaders fighting for our rights, and I think we are really hopeful that you will fight for us right now, put some teeth in this ordinance, ensure that you are able to direct your police to keep us safe. Again, and I was here last month, I'm hopeful that there will be some content around SROs. And I know that there is you know, the enemy of good is better, and this is not good enough at this point. So I'm hopeful that you guys can work on this with haste, and it should have been done last month, and I'm hopeful it will be done really soon, but I do hope that you don't pass this one tonight as is. I hope you can add more substance to it, in particular around directing your police per Mr. Soleimani Pearson's recommendations. Thank you all so much.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Sure. I move the council adopt the ordinance 4877, an ordinance amending Beaverton Code Chapter 5 by adding Beaverton Code Chapter 5.19, codifying Oregon's Sanctuary Promise Act and declaring an emergency, including my edits with Councilor Kimmy that have been published for the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have discussion on the motion? Yeah.
This may be a technical matter, but I believe it's correct that in order to make an amendment, it's necessary to post it on the city recorder's website 24 hours in advance, or to actually read the amendment.
Okay.
So I think we would actually need to.
You want me to read the full amendment?
That, Councilor, is what the code requires. Yeah.
Okay. I do love to read. City Attorney, just to clarify, do you want me to read just the last portion, which is the administration portion, or do you want me to go through page by page?
So, Councilor, I think the public has had notice of the things that aren't changed.
Okay.
So you would only need to read the things that are being changed, because as I understand it, you haven't taken anything out.
No.
You're just adding.
Okay. So, for the record, to reflect that the changes that were made are on the recitals portions, or the City of Beaverton ordains as follows. And there are multiple changes that I'll read later. We also included Section 3, which is federal and state advocacy. This reads, the Beaverton City Council and staff will advocate to the federal and state delegation to pass legislation that would increase federal and state safeguards for respecting the civil rights and protecting the public safety of our community. If you jump into the actual language of the 5.19, and in 5.19.030, we had made a comment about including parking lots and wanted to get the attorney's opinion, but I'm going to keep reading and then we can come back to that. So that's part of the change, and then the last changes, and this is in 5.1.060, which is the administration section of chapter 5.19. I'll go ahead and read all of it just so that folks know. The city manager is authorized to take all action necessary to administer the sanctuary policy created pursuant to this chapter, which includes, but is not limited to, training city staff about the sanctuary city policy, including recommended training such as Know Your Rights, the Sanctuary Promise Act, and how to report the violations to the hotline, how to report to the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition, PERC, how to report U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency activity and violations. B, create signage about the areas open to the public and areas for authorized personnel, only with specific distinction on public versus private spaces, including authorized access to city spaces and facilities. C, designating city staff within each department who will document any ICE interactions while on the job in support of the diversity of our employees. D, ensure consistent staff and police protocols regarding ICE response to document and report activity in the community, including but not limited to A, enforce traffic safety impartially, treat reports of unmarked vehicles driving recklessly, blocking roadways without emergency markers, or aggressively boxing in drivers as priority public safety hazards. Officers should initiate traffic stops to verify the safety of the situation and the driver's credentials regardless of federal status. B, investigate excessive force. Adopt the Attorney General's standard that the Supremacy Clause does not protect federal agents who commit assault or endanger the public. If deputies witness or receive reports of agents smashing windows or using mace on nonviolent individuals, these incidents must be investigated as potential violations of the Oregon Criminal Code. C, refer to district attorney. Commit to documenting these incidents comprehensively and referring them to the Washington County District Attorney for review, consistent with the AG's intent to evaluate for prosecution. And D, federal interaction log. Publish a monthly log of calls for service related to suspected federal activity. The report should include A, date and location of call, B, nature of the report, for example, unmarked vehicle or abduction attempt, and C, the BPD disposition, for example, contact made, report taken, referred to DA.
Does that satisfy the requirement?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to be open for discussion, but there was a section that Councilor Hassan talked about that they needed city attorney's interpretation on, and so I think it's challenging for us to vote on something when we don't understand what it is. So can you address the councilor's concerns?
Yes, I believe, and Councilor Hassan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the question was whether city parking lots are included in land owned or operated by the city, and I believe the answer is yes.
Can you say it again, please?
Sure. City parking lots are, in fact, in our opinion, land owned or operated by the city.
Does that answer the
Yes.
question? Okay.
I will just make one general comment for everyone. Councilor Kimmy and I sat and thought about what we've been asked to do and what's been put in front of us. I have been having conversation about ways we can do more. I have shared that I want our officers to do more, and I acknowledge that right now there are a lot of implications around that, right? I want folks to feel that they can intervene. I want our staff to feel that they can intervene. And so while there was a lot more that I wanted to see here, Councilor Kimmy and I felt that this was kind of a bit of a compromise of what we've been hearing, what we wanted to see, and what we thought was kind of possible to do tonight. So thank you.
Councilor Kimmy, do you want to Since Councilor Sun is talking about you, perhaps you want to talk.
Well, she said 90% of what I wanted to say. As an immigrant and Asian American, I really do not want to stand out. I always want to lay low, under the radar, because that's what we've been taught. But at last few weeks, I had to change my position on certain things because we wanted to do the right way, legal way. Well, that's how Beaverton is, how Oregon is. But I agree with sentiments of the public that we have to be a little bit more. We have to make clear stands that we want to protect the Beaverton residents, and we want to have our police department protect the residents first. And that's why we have law enforcement. There were a lot of suggestions that were sent in. More actionable items, but it was, as Councilor Hassan said, it was a little bit of compromise where we proposed something that we could take an action right now, and some other proposed actions could be have further discussion with the police department and the city attorney and the city manager, how we go about doing so, and what are the protocols that we can set for our police officers. That could be further discussion for the future for policy level. But for me, for codifying, this feels comfortable.
Councilor Dieter.
Okay. Okay, it's not just my voice. I support the Sanctuary City Code that we have drafted with staff, and that was part of the agenda package that came prepared for tonight. I can't support these code amendments as they're proposed tonight because they're not ready to be codified. There are portions of these amendments that are so intertwined with other pieces of our existing code that in order to actually be approved, in preparation for proposing them, there would have to have been conversations with the city attorney, the city manager, maybe even our municipal judge or police chief, and those conversations didn't happen. And that's really frustrating to get the proposed amendments this morning when some of us had jobs or other commitments and weren't able to review them until later. Anyways, like the work has to be put in to make sure these are prepared to go into code. We have our code ready for the sanctuary city status here in Beaverton, and we can and should do that. Oregon already has that, so this is affirming our commitment to that. Our officers already don't ask about immigration status. They're not allowed to. We are already doing several of the pieces that are proposed in these code amendments. Our officers and our city team already works with people, families who have people abducted, to have their cars returned to them. So we are already doing a lot of this work, and a lot of it is administrative. It doesn't have to go into code when it's so tied in with other pieces. We already have a traffic safety element of our code. We already have a traffic safety element of our code, and we already have cited federal agents who have broken those codes. Now, getting a conviction is very, very difficult because of qualified immunity, but that doesn't mean we're not doing it because that already exists in code. So I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Councilor Tivnon.
I'm trying to remember how it works with public hearings, if we can have staff come back up to respond to both what Councilor Husson read into the record and just get a sense of what this looks like in process and action to incorporate these things into the day-to-day, what the impacts are in terms of cost, length of time it would take to stand them up, And just a general sense from staff on what it looks like to actually actionize the proposed edits.
I need to phone the city attorney because it's been moved and seconded in discussion on the floor. Can we have staff up at this juncture?
I think, Mayor, you would have to reopen the hearing part of the evidentiary part
Okay.
of it.
How would you like me to do that? Wait, do we need to? Can I just open it from where we are right now? Okay, so do I just need to reopen the public hearing? Okay, so I reopen the public hearing?
In order to ask questions to
Have
staff.
questions, okay. So I reopen the public hearing. Do you want the city manager to?
I echo the frustration of getting something the day of a public hearing and not having time to process it. We also typically, as counselors, have a chance to hear from the city staff of what it looks like to implement on changes, especially changes of this kind of magnitude. And to Counselor Teeter's point, like, are they in the right place to be actionized appropriately and effectively? And we didn't have an opportunity to hear anything from city staff, so I don't know who the best representative is from the city to speak to this, but whoever that person is, I'd love to hear from them.
I'd imagine it's the city manager.
Thank you for that. So I do think it's very difficult to be able to give you an action plan in terms of how to implement it. There will be impacts. I would give council a couple of options here. One is that you want to be the most flexible in doing anything. I think that there's a couple of different vehicles here. One of the things that was very encouraging, as I heard a lot of commentary around things that we also are doing to be humanitarian focused, surveillance, reporting approaches. We have a lot of protocols already in place. I heard that that was really important. We have federal and state advocacy opportunities as well. So I do think there's many things that were brought up today that we can actually talk about, but I think in a different vehicle. So you've got the ordinance, and that's great. But ordinance also takes a lot to edit, update. Things are changing every day. So you may want to consider what you want to include in an ordinance versus what you want to include in a policy. Policies are going to allow you, for instance, in here there's training. That's really easy to do, but what happens if something occurs tomorrow, next month, and we need to be nimble and get that training in front of staff so they can respond appropriately? In an ordinance, we were not going to be able to do that quickly. In a policy, we can do that really fast. So I think that those are things to keep in mind when we talk about impact. There might be a monetary impact to implement this, that's fine. I think the operational thing is where we need some time to understand the implications. I do think that there are some legal issues that we need to make sure that we have eyes wide open on, and that would help us be able to have extra time to look at that so we can come back with ways to implement this that doesn't impact either other legal matters or operations. And so we don't have the time to respond like that. Council could direct us to come back to continue the ordinance, and we could give you some options if you'd like, or you can take action now. I'm willing to take the direction for council tonight. However, my concern is that we haven't been able to spend enough time with this document to understand all the implications. So my ask would be time, frankly, to be able to look at it, but this is important to the community, important to the council, so we would need to come back quickly if you were to grant us a little bit more time so we could give you some options to implement this.
The area that I paused on and was trying to think as deeply and comprehensively as I could quickly is at the intersection of telling our law enforcement to stand right up against federal law enforcement and the agents that are out in our community abducting people right now. And I just heard on the news today, like probably everyone else in this room, that I think it was 2 officers in Minneapolis who were not on duty were stopped by ICE and asked for their papers until they told them that they were law enforcement, and they immediately left. So there's some, yeah, I heard it on the news on the way in, so I don't know all the details of it, but I heard just enough to think about that part, that tension point between basically pitting these 2 enforcement agencies against each other. I really would like to hear from our police department on, are there dangers associated with that? Are there considerations? are there considerations associated with that could, to some of the public testimony, I am using these words because they were used early. They are not my words, but the good ones that are out there, which tells me at least some of the people in this room trust at least some of our police officers that are out there that are working to protect us. I hear that some of you don't. I also heard that some of you do. I think that it's a complex issue that we all have feelings about. I'm on the side of protecting the people of Beaverton, including our law enforcement officers, including all of us, and I would like more information from them directly on what the implications of these changes are so that we make the best and most informed decision that we can.
Councilor Hassan.
I've been working with the city attorney for the last year in our meetings talking about the codification process. I acknowledge that, yes, you all got it last night, and I understand that you're processing those changes. If we are looking to not pass this, I think I need to understand what part. And so, city attorney, can you help me understand what concerns exist with the current language?
Councilor, it's the issues that the city manager raised, the sort of implementation issues and the interaction with other code provisions that I think we, and particularly city staff and particularly on the law enforcement side, would need more time to understand, for example, how this relates to existing policies, existing code provisions. But, you know, I'm not the best person to address that, frankly.
Okay, so then it's back to the city manager. This didn't come out of thin air. I mean, it came from talking with a lot of folks and trying to continue to have meetings and looking at the Portland codification document. So I don't think that there's anything in here that we're asking for that is, I don't think there's anything that we're asking for that's complicated or illegal. So I guess I would need to understand that if that's the route that this council's going.
Councilor Duggar.
And we're still in the public hearing. I can still.
We're public hearing.
Yeah. So one of you can answer this. Conceptually, I support the amendment. I think it makes a lot of sense, the things that are listed. But what is the best legal way for us to capture these things? If we want this to pass, I'm hearing maybe the ordinance isn't the best way, but I need a yes. Like, I need to know how we get it in law, right? Like is it a policy afterwards? I'm open to that. And then I need to know timelines, right? Like we've waited a while. This can't be filibustered. This cannot disappear into a hole for 6 months. Why this action is going. So I'm going to ask directly, what is the best way to accomplish the things that are listed, and what is the timeline to get that passed?
So you can do a couple of things. One, you can approve the ordinance that was submitted by staff, and you can also request that the amendment that was provided by Councilor Kimmy and Hassan be provided in a policy framework for council's consideration. The timeline could be as early as the first meeting in February or the second meeting. I know that time is important, so we can move things aside to make that happen.
And the last question I have is, help me understand the legal ramifications of a policy document versus an ordinance. Help me understand that. And then what if we get some of this wrong, like tonight, you know, putting it in the ordinance versus a policy? Like, what are the ramifications of that? Because in my mind, an ordinance just takes, it's a longer runway, right? We've got to cite it, we've got to notice it. We can't make a quick change to that, but we still can make a change. So help me understand that a little bit too.
So you're almost answering the question. I will remind you, when you had the transition from the form of government, many of the actions that you've taken over the past 5 years have been to take words out of the ordinance and put them in policy, because it does not allow you to be flexible. Because the legislation moves so quickly, because what we're seeing at the community level is moving so quickly, I don't think time is on our side if we're going to continue to put things in an ordinance. That's why the concern is to allow ultimate flexibility for the community. The ordinance is administrative law, so there is a process to undo that, and you laid out that process quite well. So the concern is that if you're going to put things like training, for instance, in an ordinance and things come up that are critical, it's going to take a while to undo that. With a policy, you can do that relatively quickly without noticing. And that is why we are making the suggestion that you do a policy framework or a document, however council wants to do this, would be easier and nimble for the council body to move, or if you're hearing from the community, you can take action quickly, and that is what I'm hearing this evening.
My last question, and maybe this is for Councilor Huston, if you don't, like, there was a part in there around reporting. I really like that. I don't just want reporting for Beaverton, right? We have a lot of residents that are in Aloha. You know, I care about them too. And so we are part of WACA. For those who don't know, that's Washington County Coordinated Communications Agency, 911, right? When you call 911, it's not just to Beaverton, they dispatch. What is the appropriate policy mechanism? Because I would like to see reporting for the entire area that WACA serves, right? And how do we accomplish that as well? Because I think our responsibility technically is to the residents of Beaverton, but I feel a bigger responsibility here to Washington County and to Aloha and folks like that too. So how can we accomplish that? Is that a policy framework, or is that in the ordinance, or?
You can include that in your policy framework. You can also, as a policy, a part of that framework, direct staff to communicate on behalf of the council to WACA your request as a body. So if there are things that you would like to see them do, you could make a request to them.
As a payer into that system, do we actually have authority to make them do that?
That I cannot answer.
We have a voting seat, and
It's a
Councilor
voting seat.
Huston has it.
Okay.
I will also say, when we declared the emergency, given the language of the charter around notification, the city manager and I worked together to have THPRD, the school district, WACA, TVFNR, all come into a meeting to tell us like what they were doing. And WACA is now coding these calls differently. And so I think the mechanism is there. They're coding the calls. And so I think for at least that piece, we should direct the city manager in our representation to work with WACA. And right now the chair is Keith Mays, the previous mayor of Sherwood, who's now on the city council. And so we could follow up with an email to him asking that that's our position. So they're coding and doing the work. So how do we get the report for them?
That's all I have.
Councilor Hartmeyer-Brigg.
Okay, thank you. I think my question, since we're still in the public hearing component of it, is in the notes from constituents, and I think it might have been in Councilor Hudson and Councilor Kimmy's notes as well, is with the Oregon AG's letter from November that stated that federal agents are not immune from state law when acting outside reasonable scope of their duties, which we've seen happen quite often, unfortunately. I'm curious if would there be any reason or need to codify like that piece into our ordinance, or because that has been declared at the state level, that like helps us kind of strengthen our position as a city?
I think that question is for you, Scott.
Yes, please.
So we could provide information as the proposed amendment does, but ultimately those decisions are either for the Washington County District Attorney or the state attorney general to decide if the appropriate standards are met to attempt to prosecute the federal officer. So the city itself doesn't have a role in making those decisions.
Okay, thank you. I have other comments, but I don't have any specific other questions. I think I heard all the answers from the other questions that my fellow councilors raised.
Since we're still in the public hearing, if I can just understand, it sounds like the D portion of the edits are what's giving us some pause. A, B, and C, I actually took from Portland. So I do think I'd like to see it in there, and I'd like to understand if there's a reason why we can't have those pieces.
Are you talking about training city staff, creating signage? Okay.
Just those A, B, and C. So for those of you who might be watching, 5.19.060, big A, big B, and big C came from some work that we saw in Portland. It was in their code. That's why I felt it was important. So would love to hear from staff on that.
Hold on, let's get her question answered, then I'll let you go. Is that question directed at the attorney or city manager?
Whoever wants to take it.
This feels like a city manager question because this is a staff training issue.
Yeah, again, the council can make this decision themselves. If you would like my recommendation, these type of things are not suited to be in an ordinance. They typically would be in a policy. The great news is that they're not difficult things to implement, and in fact, some of them already are in play. So it's just really the mechanism that we're making the recommendation on.
Okay, and then just maybe, Scott, this is for you. Like, Portland put it in their code, and and the city manager is suggesting not. Can you give some insight on why the difference or what your thoughts are from a legal opinion?
I can't, Counselor. I don't know why Portland chose to use that mechanism as opposed to a different one. Sorry.
I think perhaps the pause from the city manager is like, what if like PERC is no longer the reporting agency? Then we have to go through a whole public hearing to update it. So do you think a friendly amendment could maybe not name PERC specifically versus saying something like, sorry, I'm trying to do this on the fly, which is not my strong suit, but like the immigration, like what could be good language? Because if it's a specific organization and the organization changes, we have to go through public hearings to change it. And so I think what she's looking for is a little bit of flexibility. So
Immigration Resource and Support Organizations. It could be something as simple as generic as that.
And I think there could be a policy document that follows up with this that names PERC now that we could change later. I think that's a friendly amendment that could happen right now. The other ones don't seem, I think they seem fine. That's the one that would give me pause, and I think if we could zoom out and do a friendly amendment on the language, I think they would be okay to stay. I think what I'm hearing from some of the council is the reservation about D, and I guess for me, I want to help you get the right outcome here. Is it important that it's in code, or is it important that it's implemented?
I mean, I think Councilor and Kimmy and I obviously wanted to see it here, and that's why we put it here. I'll let Councilor Kimmy speak.
Yeah, but I could leave it, changing language on the perks part of it.
Oh yeah, we're on to D now. So yeah. I'm wondering if we could pull this into a supporting document to get a follow-up, leave A, B, and C to Councilor Husson's point. The other agencies are doing this. But I'm just trying to get you guys what you need. I think that it being in this document creates challenging for us to implement it, but I want the good outcome here. Yes, please.
Try this mic again. Nope. Okay. My concern is the codification piece of it. So if the outcomes are good, like I want those outcomes too. And so if we pull some of this out for policy, that would help me feel much more comfortable with it too, because I'm concerned about needing to make updates in the future too. If PERC changes or if the trainings change, or even something as simple as the name of the agencies doing the immigration enforcement, we have to go back in and make all those edits all over again. And a policy document, I think, could be much easier. Like I would be happy to get on board with that.
Councilor Duggar?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about ICE, because we saw in Portland, Border Patrol were the one that shot the people, and so like I think they're not technically part of ICE. They're part of DHS, and so like that would be my friendly amendment, is that we just, because like ICE being ICE isn't the bad part, it's what they're doing, and so I just want to make sure we encompass all the protections against all the federal agencies that are doing evil right now. if you're willing to accept that.
Councilor Hartmeyer-Prigg.
Did we close the public hearing part again?
No, because they're interacting and asking staff questions. So the only way
I
to
know,
ask
but
staff
like just because
questions-
we're talking about amendments and friendly amendments, and so I'm trying to clarify because like I have things I want to share too, but
Okay.
I was
Let me
saving
close the
opinion.
public hearing and we'll let you get going. All right, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Our little rule follower.
Yeah, I think that the goal of this is absolutely something I want to get after as well. I also have a lot of hesitation to see the more of the details going into code from the sense that it will make us less nimble. This is a changing, evolving situation. We've heard tonight about criticism for, thinking that we haven't moved fast enough. And I know that I don't think we could ever move fast enough because ICE is evolving daily. They're changing tactics daily. And if we were to codify some of these practices, we can't respond and adjust as quickly as they are. And I think we do need to have this in a policy resolution. I'm definitely open to adding in elements. The ABC, I think that makes sense. And with that adjustment to the big A sub C to have a more generic description. And then to take the big D and the sub letters out into a policy resolution so that we can really be nimble and adjust as needed and work with staff on how we can implement. And as city manager mentioned, many of these are easily implementable and some already have been. And so I would like us to maintain that flexibility so that from what we hear from our neighbors, from what we see in our neighborhoods, we can move quickly to adopt an additional resolution and we don't have to go back to city ordinance to amend for something that is requiring this pressing attention.
Anyone else? What I think I'm hearing is we want this pulled into a policy document to accompany it. Leaving A, B, and C. We could have it scheduled to come back. So that's where I think the council votes are. Councilor Hassan, this is your and Councilor Kimmy's amendments to the document. I think we can accomplish everything you want to accomplish, which we agree with, by putting these two documents together. I think this is a good outcome. We get something passed tonight, and we set forward a date and we have to hold the city manager accountable to a timeline. But I think that is the best way to accomplish these and the best way to move forward tonight and showing that we're moving with urgency. Because I agree that these are really important. Some of these we need to work with other agencies. And so I think what I think we should do is codify the existing language with A, B, and C with the amendments, ask to set this to come back in a policy document with an action plan, and make it so we can move forward quickly. Because I do agree the reason we did a policy framework for lawsuits and everything else is the Trump administration is moving at a speed that is difficult for us to keep up with, and we need to have flexibility in how we address it. I think that could be a win to get everyone what they want tonight. But the way that we would have to accomplish it now, that we have moved and seconded and bend, is we have to vote down this and then have a new motion with that action coming back. Does that feel like a fair representation of what we're hearing?
I just need a moment. I'm just trying to think about, like this, I understand. I'm just trying to understand why we're not putting some of this in ordinance, and I'm trying to just process that in my brain live. I guess let's vote it down and then have that conversation. Obviously, I'm going to vote yes because this is something I worked really hard on, and then we can revisit that conversation at that time.
And I think if you are up to it, we could put together a subcommittee in the motion to work on this while we're getting it to come back. I'm happy for it to be you and Councilor Kimmy, and we could add the council president. That way we have a tracking mechanism and make it move forward. I think that's a great way to make sure that it stays together in a way that we can have some representation, move this forward absent of a meeting so it doesn't die. That's what I would recommend.
And Mayor, that would need to be a subcommittee of 3, not 4.
Correct.
Okay,
That's
thank
3.
you. Just-
Counselor
okay.
Hussain, Counselor Kimmy, and the council president.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I want to urge us all to know that every day we wait to do this, which I understand why we are, sort of, is another day that violence continues. And that just makes me really nervous. And I really worry about what can happen here. And it scares me probably every day. And so I get it. I'm here to meet you there. And there's a lot of stuff happening that we're like, I want to thank folks who testified, but there's way more than the people that had the privilege and the opportunity to be able to come here that's going on. And so I urge us to move, and city manager and city attorney, for us to get this, because our community needs to know what it means to call 911. They need to know what's going to happen when 911 shows up. Most of the people that I know in my community, and I've said this to publicly, like, they don't call 911. So it's really hard to get them to call 911. But I just urge us to not wait too long to move on this, because I don't want Renee to happen in Beaverton. Like, I really, really don't. And I want to feel like we did everything we could. So let's vote this down, and I'll write another motion.
Isn't this not go into effect for 30 days? When does
I think
this
it was
go into-
immediately.
Mayor, as drafted, it was, an emergency was declared and it would go into effect upon passage.
Okay. Okay, can the recorder call the roll?
Counselor Duggar?
Can we clarify what yes and no means?
So no means we're going to say no to it in its intensity, and then we bring back the motion we just discussed.
So bring it back as a policy.
We bring it back as past where we are with adding A, B, and C, but we do need to add the language change on A, C. And then we create a subcommittee. We set a date that we want it to come back, which is the next available meeting is February 3rd. And in those 2 weeks, the subcommittee work with the city manager to get this implemented.
If I may, Mayor?
Yeah.
Just so it doesn't get lost, I think Councilor Duggar made an important observation on AD, that it's limited to ICE. And it would, I think what Councilor Duggar suggested is that it be broadened to encompass all federal immigration authorities.
Okay.
So that'll be part of the new motion?
Yeah. All right.
Resume?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Counselor Hartmeyer-Prigg?
No.
Counselor Hassan?
Yes.
Counselor Kimmy?
Yes. Yes.
Counselor Teeter?
No.
Counselor Tivnon?
No.
Mayor Beatty?
No.
2 yes, 5 no. Motion fails.
You want me to?
Okay.
Am I going to have to read most of it, all of it, some of it?
Just the new motion.
Okay, I make a motion to pass ordinance 4877 based on our discussion of making the administration section changes to include only A, B, and C, and to make sure the section 3 of federal and state advocacy is added as well.
Second.
Oh, sorry, nope, one
Not
more.
yet, not
Okay. Under A, under 5.19.060, under administration, under big A, then down to little c, how to report immigration activity, and for D, how to report federal immigration agency activity and violations.
Thank you. Second, sorry.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this motion?
Sorry.
Counselor Doug.
Do we need to put as part of the motion when we expect this to come back, or is that something we can just hold city staff accountable? Because I'm very sensitive to Councilor Hussain's point that this cannot go on longer than it has to, at absolute minimum.
I don't think it needs to be in the motion. Do you need it in the motion? That we want it to come back?
Like, this has to be a higher priority than other things.
You certainly can put it in the motion. We heard what you said, but it's really at the discretion of the council.
Yeah. Yep.
Say we get to policy language that we feel good about at the next meeting, is that something that can be also implemented immediately?
Yeah, policy can.
So are you good with that? Yeah. Okay, so we have direction, okay.
Councilor Hartmeyer-Prigg.
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm supportive of the motion. I appreciate the edits. And I think that if we want to be clear, we can have a second motion about the resolution in the other direction. But for now, I would like to vote yes on the ordinance change.
All right.
Counselor Duggar? Yes. Counselor Hartmeyer-Prigg?
Yes.
Counselor Hassan?
Yes.
Counselor Kimmy?
Yes.
Counselor Teeter? Yes. Counselor, sorry, my eyes. Tivnon?
Yes.
Mayor Beatty?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Thank you. Do we want to make a second motion or do it from council new business? Councilor Hartmeyer-Prigg?
Then I second guess because you said new business. I like it there.
We'll do it in council new business. All right.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Hassan and Councilor Kimmy, for your edits. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of a resolution adopting an interpretation of the word compensation under Section 3.1K of the Beaverton Charter of 2021. Since this resolution relates to council member compensation, would take effect immediately if passed. I have an actual conflict of interest that must announce because the resolution essentially makes council members eligible for certain city-related expenditures and reimbursement, which is currently not the city's practice. I encourage each council member to consider whether to make a similar announcement of an actual conflict of interest before we proceed. Go ahead.
I'm declaring an actual conflict of interest regarding the proposed resolution. The resolution basically makes council members eligible for certain city-related expenditures and reimbursements, which is currently not the city's practice. Since the resolution would take effect immediately upon its passage, I am declaring the conflict.
I'm declaring an actual conflict of interest regarding this proposed resolution. The resolution basically makes council members eligible for certain city-related expenditures and reimbursements, which is currently not the city's practice. Since the resolution would take effect immediately upon its passage, I am declaring a conflict.
I'm declaring an actual conflict of interest regarding this proposed resolution. The resolution basically makes council members eligible for certain city-related expenditures and reimbursements, which is currently not the city's practice. Since the resolution would take effect immediately upon its passage, I am declaring the conflict.
I'm declaring an actual conflict of interest regarding this proposed resolution. The resolution basically makes council members eligible for certain city-related expenditures and reimbursements, which is currently not the city's practice. Since the resolution would take effect immediately upon its passage, I am declaring the conflict.
I am declaring the actual conflict of interest regarding this proposed resolution. The resolution basically makes council members eligible for certain city-related expenditures and reimbursements, which is currently not the city's practice. Since the resolution would take effect immediately upon its passage, I am declaring the conflict.
Mayor, I'm declaring a conflict of interest regarding this proposed resolution. The resolution basically makes council members eligible for certain city-related expenditures and reimbursements, which is currently not the city's practice. Since the resolution would take effect immediately upon its passage, I am declaring the conflict.
All right, thank you. Since we've all have a conflict of interest regarding this resolution, Oregon law requires that none of us vote on our own compensation. To meet the requirement, we will proceed as follows. First, Councilor Kimmy, Teeter, and Hartmeyer-Prigg, and I will vote on whether to adopt the resolution regarding council positions 4, 5, and 6. Next, Councilor Tivnon, Duggar, and Husson will vote on whether to adopt the resolution regarding council position 1, 2, and 3. Finally, all 6 councilors will vote on whether to adopt the resolution as to the position of the mayor. This way, none of us is voting for our own compensation. Please keep in mind that when others are voting on whether to adopt the resolution regarding the position you hold, you must refrain from all discussion or debate over this matter. Is there a motion regarding positions 4, 5, and 6?
Yes, Mayor, I move resolution number 4940 be adopted regarding council positions 4, 5, and 6.
I will second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the recorder call the roll?
Councillor Duggar?
No.
Just abstain for the record, thank you. Councillor Hartmeyer Prigg?
Yes.
Councillor Hassan?
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Kimmy? Councillor Teeter?
Yes.
Councillor Tivnon?
Yes.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Thank you. Mayor Beatty?
Yes.
Motion carries 4 yes, 0 no.
All right, next, Councilors Tivnon, Duggar, and Hassan will vote on whether to adopt the resolution regarding council positions 1, 2, and 3.
I move resolution number 4940 to be adopted regarding council positions 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the recorder call the roll?
Sorry, my arthritis in my hands. Councillor Duggar? Yes. Thank you. Councillor Hartmeyer Prigg?
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Hassan?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Kimmy? Thank you. Councillor Teeter?
Abstain.
Councillor Tivnon?
Yes.
Mayor Beatty?
Abstain. Finally, all 6 councilors will vote on whether to adopt the resolution as, to the position of the mayor.
Is there a motion regarding the mayor's position?
I move resolution number 4940 be adopted regarding the position of mayor.
Second.
It's moved by Councilor Hassan and seconded by Councilor Kimmy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the recorder call the roll, please? No, that's for all of us.
Councillor Duggar?
Yes.
Councillor Hartmeyer Prigg?
Yes.
Councillor Hassan?
Yes.
Councillor Kimmy?
Yes.
Councillor Teeter?
Yes.
Councillor Tivnon?
Yes.
Mayor Beatty?
Abstain.
6 yes, 0 no, motion carries.
Okay, we are now on to council new business. Councilor Hartmeyer Prigg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for everyone who came tonight to speak with us, and to my colleagues for working together to try to move swiftly. So I would like to move that we put together a policy resolution that is shaped by the ordinance amendments presented by Councilors Hassan and Kimmy this evening. And it would be a subcommittee with Councilors Hassan, Kimmy, and Duggar to work with the city manager to move this swiftly to come back to us at our first meeting in February, for us to have a policy resolution around the other kind of protective measures and direction, and to make sure that we just have the flexibility that we need to meet this moment for our community.
Second.
Right. Can we vote? I don't think we need to vote since it's council new business. Can we just direct, or is voting fine from this?
I think given the nature of this conversation this
Okay.
evening, a motion would be warranted.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the recorder call the roll?
Councillor Duggar? Yes. Councillor Hartmeyer Prigg?
Yes.
Councillor Hassan?
Yes.
Councillor Kimmy? Yes. Councillor Teeter?
Yes.
Councillor Tivnon?
Yes.
Mayor Beatty?
Yes.
Motion carries 7 yes, 0 no.
Thank you. I do have one item that I just, for awareness, I'm really about the Denny Road project and not undergrounding there, considering the demographics of that neighborhood. I've been trying to challenge staff on how did this get missed? It's our council policy to underground when we're doing projects. And apparently it came to us in a work session, and it was pole relocation And I don't think that was clear enough to let us know that by moving poles around, we weren't going to underground. I would like an update from staff on like the cost of undergrounding. We did all that work with the school, all of that work with sidewalks, and now we're going to have overhanging power lines. And one of the things that we experience when it's extremely hot, the power lines snap. When it's extremely cold, the weight goes underneath. PGE has been telling us very vocally that the best way to avoid swings in climate to keep power going is to underground. The council has adopted a policy on undergrounding, yet it still didn't, like, staff made a decision or there was an error in the process and we didn't get a chance to discuss it. And as a fierce advocate of undergrounding, like, I'm just sad that we're at this point, but I don't know if it's possible where we are to have undergrounding added, but I think it would be great for us to understand the cost so we can weigh that balance from the council decision versus the staff. And if you guys are amenable, I'd like the city manager to come back with that information. Please.
Do you prefer this as a presentation or as just a report from the city manager sent to us?
A report to us is fine. My guess is it's astronomically expensive and we're not going to be able to do it. But what I would also like to understand is, like, how was it missed in the process? Because if this was included in the scoping originally, it probably wouldn't be a ballooned price. And so the council has not only made us vocally clear that this is a priority around pedestrian transportation, but it's in a policy. And so it was missed. Mistakes happen, but it feels like a lot of checks and balances hadn't happened along the way. So doesn't need to come back in a work session, but I think an understanding and maybe how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? Because we're starting to get all of these projects done, and undergrounding is such an essential part of how we do it.
Sure, thank you.
Yep. All right. Anything else for this evening? All right, meeting adjourned.